Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the 2026 Kawasaki Teryx5 H2, a supercharged 5-passenger side-by-side that will absolutely blow your mind. This thing's incredible. So in this video review, we're going to do a technical overview of a lot of the features and try to show you some of the things that the other videos aren't showing you. So I'm filming here, of course, at Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, the #1 volume Kawasaki dealer in the country, and they've given me complete access to this vehicle. So we're going to go over it sort of as an initial overview, and if there's more questions that you have after this video, make sure you let me know in the comments below and we'll come back to them again and again. If we have to make more videos on this thing, we will absolutely do our best to do that, but I think this thing's going to sell pretty quickly and they are in very limited supply. So let's start by taking a look at what this is. So let's start by putting this in a class, and really this is outside the class of anything Kawasaki has ever done before. Of course, being a 5-passenger, that already sets it up so you can take your whole family instead of just leaving one kid behind. If you're a family of 4 like mine, you're probably fine, but maybe you want to take that one friend, and in this you can. But the real story on this thing is the supercharged engine in this. So it's an inline 4, 1000cc, but the supercharged engine makes 250-ish horsepower, 253 PS, and that's tested to standards, international standards, so that is a true number. And what that means is we believe it's limited to 99 miles per hour, so 160-ish kilometers an hour, and that means that all of that power is packed down into a little speed. So when you think about a sports car, something like an Autobahn level Porsche, all of that horsepower is spread over a wider gear range to make sure it goes very, very, very fast. This thing goes very fast for what it is for an off-road vehicle, but really it's all about aggressive acceleration. And when they had this thing out testing around, they were telling me how it almost seems like it lifts the front wheels right off. But you have a unique suspension that's going to work with you to keep those front wheels on the ground. So we're going to talk about all of the technology in that, because that's really the story of this. So let's start by talking about the suspension technology, and then we'll work through talk about the engine technology. Then we're going to hop in the driver's seat and show you some of the stuff in there. So one thing you're not going to see on video here is the general size of this. These are 33-inch wheels and tires, or tires anyway, so 33 by 10 by 16, so a 16-inch diameter wheel, 270 millimeter large dual or disc brakes, of course. And the real difference here is the suspension. So it's an electronically controlled suspension, and it's got 3 settings for firmness. So you can switch between them on the wheel. We'll show you that inside. What I really like is that they didn't go crazy with like 22 settings of adjustments and all that kind of thing. When you're out on the trail or when you're out doing something in this, you want simplicity for riding it. You want to make sure you enjoy everything. You don't have to play with a bunch of computers. So although this thing has a whole bunch of settings that you can customize through, some of the key pieces are easy. Do you want soft, firm, or hard suspension? This thing will let you choose that electronically. Now, when you have electronically suspension, that's Kawasaki's electrically controlled suspension, so KECS. And what that means is it's not just an adaptive suspension that you can hit from the wheel, but it actually has acceleration sensitivity. So when you're accelerating and you're transferring that weight to the back, what it can do is sort of load up that back end to keep the vehicle a little bit more level. Now we say a little bit more because it still has that aggressive suspension or aggressive acceleration, which is going to compress that rear suspension. But what it's doing is it's actually adapting the suspension to the conditions, especially that acceleration. So instead of having the front wheels completely unload, it can push back a little bit to keep those front wheels on the ground to help you retain steering control in rougher environments and in hard acceleration. So speaking of rougher environments, tougher environments, has almost 2 feet of travel out front, a full 2 feet of travel out back. It's got about 17-ish inches of ground clearance. So this thing is going to be fully capable to take on whatever type of terrain you might want. So taking a look at the back of this machine, this is where you start seeing some interesting things. First of all, you've got some practicality. You've got a little bed back here. We'll show you that closer in a second. It holds about 300 pounds, so you've still got sort of the standard weight in a KRX type Kawasaki machine. Then you've got these dual exhausts here, and they absolutely scream. And then you have just basic suspension. Well, I say basic suspension, advanced suspension, but basic suspension, things that they do in a lot of vehicles to give you that extra ground clearance. You've got that little bit of a kink in there to give you that extra ground clearance so you're not running into things at the suspension level. So again, we've talked about the electronic suspension, we've gone through that, we've talked about the specs of the engine, but let's talk about some things that some people aren't going to talk about that engine right now. So for reference about the size, I'm about 6 feet tall, and you can see roughly where I am on this. You've got a really high back end, which again is all due to that a huge suspension, lots of travel there like we talked about. But when we talk about the engine, if you think about a Kawasaki sport bike, it's known of course for its power, it's also known for its sound. And one of the things you're going to notice with this thing is a really identifiable sound. And that is in part due to the supercharger. Now the supercharger is an interesting choice by Kawasaki. You could say, hey, you could do a turbo, you could do a supercharger. Why do a supercharger? Well, there's a lot of benefits to supercharging. First of all, the big thing with supercharging is there is no turbo lag. It doesn't wait for the exhaust gases to have to push through. It is an instant mechanical connection that right away gives power. And what that means is you have that instant, you're not waiting for it to rev up. This thing makes peak power at 9,000 RPM, peak torque at around 8,800 RPM. So it really likes to rev out and scream in a lot of ways like a Kawasaki motorcycle engine. But the other thing with that supercharger is that instant torque allows for that smooth, predictable acceleration, and especially when you're off-road, if you want to swing that tail out or if you want to do something and stay predictable, you want that smooth power band. And Kawasaki isn't a stranger to supercharging because their H2 superbikes actually have superchargers as well. And those are actually really cool because the fins on those superchargers in Kawasaki's sport bikes spin so fast that they break the speed of sound. So Kawasaki has been making superchargers, reliable ones, in high revving engines for a while now, and that's the technology that's heading into this. Now, it's not a copy from a motorcycle engine, it's just the technology there and the experience has now been ported into the side-by-side market. So let's talk about the practicality about this, because we want to talk about all that sport and everybody's going to talk about that, but it's also a very useful machine. You've got your 4 tie downs here. Of course, you can put your Kawasaki accessories in here. Like I said, this is going to hold 300 pounds, so it's just enough to take your day's worth of gear, a cooler, whatever else you may want to take. Or if you're really hardcore, of course, you can get an extra tire, all kinds of options to do in there. And of course, you can throw lighting up front, lighting out back, whatever you would want. You do have nice LED lighting out back here. I will point out as we come around the side here, let's just quickly do that. You have got the traditional sort of very high mounted, oops, my tripod got a little stuck there, there we go. You've got the very high mounted air intake, so you can really go deep into water holes and that kind of thing and stay without a problem there with that high mounted intake. But practicality wise, that smaller trunk out back and that saves space for a pretty roomy passenger compartment, so let's just show you that right now. So rear seat room is a big piece of this. It's named after the seating, the Teryx5. So as we hop in here, again, as a 6-footer sitting behind myself, I've actually got pretty good room in here. Lots of foot room to space my feet out and make myself comfortable. This bar does sit fairly close to me, but of course that's what you want. You want to be able to hold it easily, not stretched out, so you can really keep yourself in your place. Now I'm going to show you a different camera view in here in a second because it is 3 seats across here. Now, like a compact car or a compact SUV, this is kind of similar feeling to that. So the rear outboard seats have plenty of room, but the center seat is going to be a bit of a compromise seat for some people. It doesn't have a very high drive shaft area, so you can sit in that middle if you want to, but it is a slightly smaller seat, slightly less comfortable seat than the outboard positions. Now the outboard positions feel like the front seats of very high-end side-by-sides, but you're in the rear seat here, and you can also buckle yourself in with the 4-point harnesses. So we'll show you what this looks like for a second. I should point out there's a little pocket here to put your stuff in there. If you want to sort of film something and drop your phone back in there, you could do that, hold it securely. There's a cup holder right there for you. But the big thing is you can really hold on here, hold yourself in position, and as you're getting thrown around through rougher terrain, you do have good shoulder bolstering as well. So we'll bring you in and show you what I'm talking about, and then we'll move to the front seats, talk about those, and hit some of the technology. So taking a look at the rear seats, you can sort of see that you have that bolstering over on this side, and this functions as a bit of a bolster on the other side of the left side passenger here, but because it is bumped out a little bit, it does sort of shorten the area of the center passenger. So you do want a little bit smaller person in there than maybe a 6-footer. I mean, a 6-footer could fit, but again, just think about it like a typical car. That center seat is not where you want to be unless you have to be there, but it's a good place to sit because again, even the center seat has the full harness sitting right there. So again, harness, plastic clip across the chest, the proper buckles across the waist there. You can make sure that you're fully comfortable while also being fully secure in there. So that's the rear seats. Let's show you the front seat now. So take a look at the front seat here. You can see the door is still shut, and you can see you've got a very good view in. The doors are nice and low. We'll sit in there in a second to show you the view out, but I just want to show you again the same harnesses out here out front. You've got the Kawasaki harnesses there. And to see how you would look, we've got a very large mannequin in here. He doesn't look too large, but he is a tall guy. He does not have a name, and I was just talking to Seth, our sales guy right over there. You can't quite see him. There he is. We were just deciding that you guys should name this mannequin. So if you made it this far in the video, give me a name. Tell me what you're naming the mannequin down below, and maybe we'll give a name that, because he does need a name. You can see there he is, sitting nice and comfortable, and again, in the proper harness. So now what we're gonna do is take the camera off and take you inside this thing. All right, so as we jump inside, you can see the doors here are basically 90 degrees. Now, it doesn't quite look like 90 degrees because there is a curve to this. So I don't know, I have the camera in wide angle, and sometimes can make things curve as well, but I'm sort of showing you my hand. It is basically 90 degrees back here, but it curves a little bit. That's just part of the styling there. So you've got a nice wide opening door. You're climbing around the roll cage here. I should mention that the roll cage is properly certified. ROPS, I can't remember what that stands for off the top of my head, but that is a certification for a roll cage. So you have a proper certified, tested roll cage, not just tested to manufacturer standards, but an actual standard, an actual specification. So we're going to jump in here, cup holders right there. There's a lot of standard stuff that I'm going to kind of gloss over, right? You'd have typical high, low, neutral, reverse gearing, that kind of thing. You know, the very typical stuff. You do have very automotive style doors here. We'll slam that door shut, and you have a speaker down there, little tweeter up there. So all this stuff is standard. I do have the key already into the ignition, so we're just going to turn it to the on position. We're not going to start it. Now, this can look a little bit complicated, but as I was talking through it, a lot of this is pretty normal. So remember I talked about the Kawasaki electronic control suspension, the KECS? Well, what I love is right here on the steering wheel, you have full control of that. So if you want to go firm, you can see it's changed to firm right there. If you want to go normal, you go to normal. If you want to go to soft, you go right there. It will slightly change the ground clearance, half an inch, quarter, 3/4 of an inch, somewhere in there. There is a variance in the Kawasaki specs that show the ground clearance, and that's some of which can be changed in here. So we're not going to show you everything about this dash because I think it could get complicated, but the point is you can customize a lot of things on here. So same thing with the power modes here. It's in the mid power mode right now, but you can change it from high, mid to low. So you've got 3 levels of power modes, 3 levels of suspension modes, and to me that keeps things simple. You've also got your all-wheel drive, you've got 2-wheel drive, 4x4, all-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, 4x4, and they've got lockers on there as well, so you can do that up. You can see the boost here, so you can sort of see what's going on there. So you have a lot of basic information, actually a lot of complicated information, but as you cycle through, you can see everything you would need to see. So there is a bit of a learning curve here to see what everything is here, but from a pure driving perspective, you've got all the things you need to have for that power control, so you can just sort of switch some knobs here and dials and buttons to get to everything you need. You can see that when the fuel is low, you do have that flashing light there, and again, you're getting peak horsepower right around red line. So 9,000 RPM is where you have peak horsepower. So you can rev it right up to the red line to get your maximum horsepower. Clock is always there as well. Now what's interesting is you can switch over here to a lot of different controls as well. You have some of the repeatable information over here. When we're switching power modes, that button is down here off the steering wheel, so hopefully you can read that. Let's see if we can get that in focus for a second. Oh, there we go. Yeah, power mode right there. So that power mode, if I cycle through, you'll see it change right there in the dash, full power. So we go full power, we'll go firm suspension. That's what you would want to do, right? And then you're coming over here. So again, like we said on the dash, this is a full, basically Garmin system. So we can kind of cycle through here. This is your main screen here. You can choose your location, your media player. There's different phone notifications. Basically, this is all a Garmin thing. It does connect to the group ride, so you can connect with other people who have different levels of Garmin stuff, whether that be motorcycle riders with Garmin GPSs and that kind of thing on there, or other people with side-by-sides. So again, it doesn't only connect with like Kawasaki's system, it can connect to a wider range, which is a nice thing about these systems. Navigation is all very simple to figure out. There you go. It does have it looks yellowy to me, but it's still greeny, yellowy, kind of a replica of what you've got there. So of course, this is showing all the roads, but of course it'll work off-road as well. This is where we're located, where I'm filming here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals. Right now, the speed is set to miles an hour, and you can change, of course, that to kilometers an hour, whatever you need. You've got direction, you've got elevation. So all of this is in here, but this touchscreen is also very responsive. So whatever you want to go to, it's very quick to react, which is what I like. So again, if I go to the dash, it's very quick. If we go back to the other things, go to the navigation, it's very quick as well. So It is very automotive grade, and it's a full 10-inch display, so it's a large display. Now you still have room to add the accessories you would want to add. So you've got some dummy switches type stuff in here and down here. A lot of people sort of talk about in a vehicle, a higher end vehicle, these are like poverty switches they call them, where they don't do anything. But on a vehicle like this, I think you're going to want to customize it up. And as you do that, you've got lots of options there. Typical Kawasaki stuff down here, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, and the lock down there. And then you've got a little bit of space down here as well. Actually pretty deep space there. My whole hand and more kind of went in there. 2 cup holders there. Your standard, your brake, or sorry, your, let's go wide angle again. You can see your parking brake there. You do have a little glove box there. And of course you have the adjustable handlebar to hold on to there for your passengers. So a lot of things in here. So if you want to get really into the nitty gritty of the engine and nitty gritty of what's going on, you can. But what I really enjoy is 3 power modes, 3 suspension modes, a steering wheel, a gas brake, and that's really all you need to know to have a blast in this thing. There's no really crazy high-tech thing going to prevent you from having all kinds of fun, but there is a lot of information in here. As you want to know more information, you can dig into that and get to know it. So very cool. I will say the steering wheel is nice and compact, very nice rubbery kind of feel, very grippy, flat bottom wheel. You've got the, you know, the line in the center, which is what you have on all true racing vehicles, where you can sort of see exactly when you've got the wheels straight, and that's because you can look out here and see them, but if it gets, if you're sitting in this area, maybe you can't see as much. I will say that visibility is excellent. You can lean forward here and see right down the hood. You can lean just a little bit out here and see your wheel placement. So you've got very good visibility overall. You can sort of see that here. But I will say this does feel like it would be relatively easy to drive from a simplicity standpoint, despite the technology and despite the very high power in this machine. So let's talk about who this thing is for. Obviously in the United States, there's lots of desert terrains where this thing's gonna be absolutely amazing for, wide open areas where you can just absolutely fly. Of course, you can jump, you can do all kinds of things with it. Here in Canada, this thing is still a go anywhere, but it's a high performance thing. It's not a narrow trail kind of vehicle. It's something you want to get out in the open and really open up and have fun with. What I do like about it is being open like this, it does give you some ability to customize it. And I think the buyer of this is going to want high performance and all kinds of features, but you can very much make it your own. It's still a platform that you can turn into what you want it to turn into. So I know you guys have been asking for a lot more power in some of the KRX machines. This thing gives you all that power. Tell me what you think of this with its 5-passenger seating, with its 250-ish horsepower. Is that what you're looking for from Kawasaki? You can let us know in the comments below what the types of things you like about this and the types of things you would do with this, where you would want to go. That's what I want to kind of hear. And of course, if you're interested in picking this up, it is here right now at Jim Gilbert's Power Sports here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. You can give them a call. There's a link in the description to this video that will take you right to their dealer, and they of course will be happy to help you. This is just my first look. If you want to see more or you have questions, make sure you let us know below. And of course, I'm going to film all kinds of this kind of stuff, so make sure you subscribe, and if you find a couple videos you like, watch them to the end. That helps the channel grow as well. So thanks everybody for watching. We'll have a whole lot more for you soon. We'll talk to you in the next one.